I'm really excited for today's episode because I have Ben Amos with me from Innovate Media and Engage Video Marketing. He is a video producer, runs a video marketing agency very similar to Hebron Films, but a lot of what I learnt and what kicked me off into the journey of being a strategic video producer, a strategy-first production company, and having the impact that we have on our clients, I can trace the start of that back to Ben Amos and the course that he put together about video strategy way back when. And I owe a lot to this man, and it's really, it was really an honor to have him on the podcast and go deep into what video strategy means and provide some insights and learnings for people who want to use video better. So you'll find out about his business, about a little bit about my business and how we first started. But I hope you really enjoy it as much as I did. Here it is. Let's take it away. Ben Amos, the one and only, thank you so much for joining me in the virtual studio. Mate, it is an honor to have you on this show.
It's an honor to be here as well, Caleb. We've known each other for a number of years, and love what you do, and excited to kind of share a bit on your show today.
Hey, that's so cool, because one of the coolest things about this is that I was on probably one of the first two podcasts that I ever appeared on was your show, the Engage Video Marketing podcast, and that was a real big thing for me back when I was, early days growing this thing. And you introduced me to Riverside, what we're recording on now, and that was actually following my involvement and completing of your video strategy course. So we'll get into what video strategy actually is and video strategists and things like that. But I just wanted to paint that picture of, man, you have played a massive role in my development journey as a business and providing value through video marketing. So it's almost like a full circle moment here of having you as a guest on my podcast after featuring on yours. So a fair few years ago now. So this is really cool.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that as well. Definitely the impact you've had on some of our other, shared members of my community as well, can't be ignored. So you're doing great work, Caleb. So keep that up.
Thanks. All right. Let's get into Ben Amos and Innovate Media and Engage Video Marketing. Ben, can you share with me the breadth and scale and what your business, the arms of your business activities look like? What are you doing?
Yeah, sure. So big question. I'll try and keep it to a small answer. Basically, I've been running my video production and, now we call ourselves a video strategy agency for 16 years plus here on the Sunshine Coast, Queensland, Australia. So we are, I guess, a remarkable regional business ourselves. So the Sunshine Coast is a regional area in Queensland, although we're, an hour north of Brisbane, right? But definitely, we operate in a regional space out of the capital cities, and, that comes with its trials and tribulations as a small business owner and as a video production company trying to get that off the ground. But that was my journey, for the last 16 years. And it was around about 7 or 8 years ago that I had a realization in the business that really what we're doing for our clients when we were, making videos and handing over videos to our corporate clients, we were potentially kind of failing them, So, and I know this is similar to many stories of like yourself, for example, as well, Caleb, that you realize that at some point you realize that there's something missing in just delivering a video to a client when no one's having some sort of marketing or strategic conversation with them in the first place. So that was our story as well. And what kicked off for me about 8 years ago, this journey into video strategy and video marketing, and really developing frameworks and learning what that means and how we can apply that to our clients. So off the back of that, obviously we've transitioned over the years our service delivery model for Innovate Media, our agency, to lean into that strategy first approach for our clients. But then I've also, off the back of that, and also after releasing my own podcast over 305 episodes ago, talking about video strategy and video marketing, I was fortunate, I guess, to build an audience of other people in the world of video or in the world of business who wanted to figure out how to do video better. And that led to production of an online course, some coaching, eventually, this year, releasing that all as a book as well. So I've kind of been on this journey of building an agency and a personal brand at the same time. So it's been fun, and there's a lot going on in both of those spaces. There always is a lot going on. So yeah, that's the short answer, I guess. But we can dive into any of that further.
Yeah, I love that. You are the first video production company that I've had on, or video professional that I've had on this podcast. Not that I'm concerned at and getting competitors on or anything like that. I see all of the wonderful video producers that I interact with and get to work alongside as colleagues. But the reason I got you on is because you are the grandfather of, I hope that doesn't make you feel old, the grandfather of video strategy. You really led the way in what it means to bring strategy as a service into a video production company and not rely on anyone else to do that. I often describe my own journey in a very similar way to the way you described it. And it's what led me to search for answers, and it's what led me to come across you, is that we were delivering videos to clients that would be, uploaded upside down with the file name in the as the title on YouTube, and and that was it. Like, that was their distribution strategy, was just put it on YouTube, full stop. And like, it, without even a description on the video, like, no one was seeing the things we were making, no one was utilizing them, and they were making no impact to the businesses that we were serving. And so we really weren't serving them at all, right? Because there was no actual measurable outcome. And so I went out searching for what can I do to help these businesses more, and found you. But let's just paint the picture of, for those who aren't familiar, of historically how businesses would operate and companies would operate from a agency video production kind of combination, and how that's shifted. So how it comes to be that video production companies are becoming video strategists.
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think, anyone who's in business today recognizes that the world of any sort of marketing for business has changed a lot, particularly over the last 10 years, if we look at that sort of time frame, right? So, if we think about 10 years ago, digital marketing or social media was kind of just starting to become a thing, but many businesses weren't really paying much attention to it from a business perspective, right? And video marketing was barely a thing, right? So there was the idea of, you might create a corporate video or a brand video, that might go on the front page of your website, or, on a corporate DVD that was sent out in your prospectus or with your company report or something like that, right? Or you would be thinking, if we're going to do video marketing as a business, that we need to go to the local TV station and get a TVC produced and, go down that path. Right. So that was kind of typically what you would do. But the small businesses that we worked with, particularly in the regional area that we were on the Sunshine Coast, many of those, most of the population in business in regional areas is small business, small, medium businesses, right? And most of those businesses are not going to a marketing agency to have a, full strategic plan drawn up for their advertising spend for the quarter or for the year, right? That's the world of big business, right? Big businesses typically do that because maybe there's, bigger budgets at stake and things like that. There's more accountability and reportability that needs to happen. But I know for your audience of this podcast, they're not in that space, right? Most of them are that small business. So increasingly, as the need for video became more over the years, as more and more businesses realized they need to do something with video, they were going directly to the people who could make video for them, right? They're going to you, they're going to me, and they were going to the videographer or the video producer down the road. Now that person, fantastic usually at making video content. We can take an idea or a brief and make some pretty pictures and, put some great soundtrack to it and fly our drone over the building the right way. We can do all that sort of stuff, right? We can create a nice video, and many of us can do that. But often I think where businesses fell flat with that model or that approach is, was it even the right video in the right in the right place? And was it used in the right way? And did it contain the right sort of messaging and positioning in order to get the results that they actually wanted that video to deliver? So I kind of talk about businesses doing video for video's sake. And that's kind of the problem that we're competing against as video strategists, is if you're doing video just for the sake of getting a video done, then chances are you're missing out on the opportunity to create a video that actually gets results. And that's where strategic video and the role of a video strategist comes into play, right?
Yeah, totally right. So that's the point where, we enter the video strategist and the role of a video strategist. It's a video producer who understands marketing, who understands how customers respond, react, their buying journeys. They understand all of that marketing framework, and then they can inject their video-specific knowledge about best use of video, best placement, best practice, to meet the goals that the business has. And so they're like the connectors between this is the goal for the business. I need to optimize my sales conversion process. I need to get more leads. I need to, reduce our sales cycle. There's a whole heap of different goals that a business could have, but a video strategist comes in there and connects the dots.
Right.
They go, yes, video can be used, and it can be used in this specific way on these platforms. This is what it needs to look like, and this is how you measure the success of that. And so it's the glue between the goal and what the video is the actual video. So working out what it's going to do and how it's going to be valuable. That was the missing piece of the puzzle that I was looking for. I was like, oh, no way. And for me, I had no marketing background. Like I would like to think I had a fairly good understanding of people behavior for a young man back when I started, but I had no idea about marketing. And so a lot of what your course enabled me to do was fill in the gaps of things like customer journeys and, marketing needs analysis and, all of these different components of just what a marketer would know. I was able to add those skill sets and then springboard off those to get deeper in different areas. And bada bing, bada boom. I'm a video strategist.
Yeah.
It was quite the journey.
Yeah, and you've touched on that in like a beautiful kind of summary and definition of what a video strategist is there, Caleb. But I think for the business owner listening as well, it's kind of like recognizing that really when you invest in video, when you're considering doing video for your business. Actually, the truth can be said for any sort of marketing, right? But let's talk about video. When you're doing that for a business, you got to recognize that it's not the video that you want, right? It's not the actual, file that's given to you, this beautiful kind of story or whatever it may be. What you actually want as a business is the results that video is going to provide for your business, ideally, right? So, and we know that, when we kind of think academically about it, of course, that's why I'm doing this. But so many businesses are not really connecting those dots. They're just thinking like, we need to get a video made. They're not actually thinking, but why and what do we want this video to achieve? And therefore, how is this video going to be set up to do that for us? And that is the role that video strategist can play. Like you describe it as the love child between the video producer and the marketer, coming together.
Yeah, that's right. Ben, I want to dive into a little bit of your backstory in a deeper way. Like, you became aware of this problem, but you didn't have Ben Amos to turn to to give you the answers and to help you on the right track. How did you upskill yourself and develop this understanding to the point where you're able to teach other people?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's hard to clearly identify. I guess because there wasn't a resource like I put together when I put together my resource, right? So I basically had to try and go out there and figure this stuff out from a whole bunch of different sources. So I certainly won't credit, what I put together and my ideas as brand new ideas, right? There's no new ideas in the world. It's about kind of bringing knowledge from different places and then applying it into the problem that I was facing as a video producer. So, potentially I don't know for sure, potentially I was one of the first to kind of bring it into our world, right? But definitely, the larger marketing agencies and, marketing kind of gurus and experts were talking about video. But I think at the time that I started to bring it together, video was really starting to gain traction and become a thing for so many businesses across the whole spectrum, from micro startup businesses up to enterprise level. So the timing was probably kind of right, that there wasn't really that information out there, right? So, I learnt from traditional digital marketing. I learnt from, traditional marketing as well. Like, I wasn't a marketer when I started researching this stuff. I think one of the, key benefits from my perspective was that I've always been quite an inquisitive person. Like, I've been someone who, if I saw a gap or I realized I didn't know something, I would go out and figure out how to do it, or do that research and go and learn it. And then I would sink myself deep into it. And I've always been like that, right? So that's kind of what I did over those years after that realization. And I think also, and this is probably a good takeaway for anyone who's building or establishing themselves as a, in inverted commas, thought leader of some sort, is try and do that in a way where you're learning. It's the term learning out loud, right? I don't know if you've heard that phrase before, Caleb, but where you basically upskilling yourself or getting better or developing a deeper insight and knowledge in a particular area that you're passionate, interested in, but do it in a more public way. Like, that's why I started my podcast and why I started in the early days creating videos for my own brand, because I was like, when I was learning ideas, I was putting them out there and kind of testing them out. And then people who watched them would be like, that didn't make sense to me, or that was garbage, or I've heard that from 20 other people before. Or they're like, that's gold. Like, I've never heard it phrased like that before. Or that framework, the way you talked about that has opened my eyes to something. And the more I did that, the more I started to get that sort of feedback. And not only does it validate your ideas, but it also, helps you kind of steer the direction forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And you touched on something that I wanted to ask you more about, because it's actually getting way bigger. I don't know if you've noticed, the world of podcasting has exploded. Like, since you started it, like, years ago, like, there wasn't that many businesses utilizing podcasting as a marketing tool or as a thought leadership tool. It was fairly early days, kind of. Now it has gone gangbusters, and we are producing podcasts for our clients and businesses now, and have put together a really cool product about that. I don't really want to go into that now. I want to ask you, what led you to start a podcast, and did you have a grand plan in place when you started that 300 episodes ago?
Well, it was a selfish reason initially, right? I mean, I was a consumer of podcasts from early on in starting my business. So actually, probably even before I actually started my business, I was starting to educate myself, right? I talked before about how it's always been my MO, right? Of like, I need to learn stuff. I need to kind of dive deep into something. So I started listening to, some business podcasts, like Smart Passive Income with Pat Flynn and, podcast by my friend now, Chris Ducker, all about kind of doing business online and doing business in different ways. That was, not something that I was kind of accustomed to or aware of, just, living my little sheltered life here in Australia. So because I was a consumer of podcasts, I always thought I could do that. I've got the technical skills and how to record audio and things like that. And of course, in those days, it was audio only. It's selfishly because the start of my podcasting journey, and even still today, predominantly my podcasts are interview based, and it was and still is a fantastic way to reach out and have conversations with people that you might not otherwise have the opportunity to, purely because you're recording it to create content, right? So, and I'm still really bullish on the idea of podcasts. In fact, video first podcasts today, like, you guys offer there at Hebron, is the way to go, because even if you get hardly anyone listening to your podcasts or tuning in, right? The ability to take a video podcast and to use that as, first of all, a platform for you to get an interesting guest in front of you, so that you can spend an hour with them having a chat, which you normally wouldn't get to do typically. But you also get to co-create content, right? And if you're starting with a video podcast, it can be audio content, it can be, shorts and reels and snippets, and you can transcribe and turn it into articles. I mean, it's the opportunity for video podcasts today is, mind-blowing. So I think every business should consider it, really.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's exactly my thoughts on the matter as well. I'm interested in hearing a little bit about the wins that you've experienced on your podcasting journey and your business journey, with your personal brand as well as your video production company. Paint for us, the picture of what you've been able to achieve, and maybe like some numbers around listeners, or some metrics that you track success by.
Yeah, so there's a few ways we could go with this. Like, obviously, if we focus on my Engage video marketing brand, which is my personal brand based around podcasting and online courses and coaching and speaking and all that sort of stuff, and now the book as well, which has been a whole journey over the last 8 years or so. But the key metrics I look at there is probably related to impact of some sort, right? It's not necessarily financial impact. Because my core, I guess, financial driver of my life and business is the agency. But the personal brand is more around impact. And what I mean by that is probably a couple of things. I measure in some way the success of the students, the people who go through my programs or are part of my coaching, or are in audiences when I speak, right? I'm always trying to, and sometimes it's easier than others, but I'm always trying to gather those success stories and hear from those and capture those in some way. I want to know if people learn something when I share information and that they execute it and they have success. That's a personal motivation and a personal driver that keeps me kind of sharing this sort of content. It's hard to measure, right? But does it lead to financial success and business growth? Absolutely it does. So, through my podcast, that's been one of the core ways over the years that I've built an audience, and that audience has filtered through into my paid programs and courses and things, right? So that's been the core way that I've built an audience of customers there. And those customers tend to be relatively lifelong customers in a way, because you build that kind of relationship and that positioning of support with those people, and you offer something new, and often the same people will buy, right? Which is pretty cool. To be honest, right now in 2025, some of that's taken a back seat while I've focused on getting the book out into the world, and focused on some growth in my agency side of the business as well, but it's still there and it's still ticking along as well. The other thing from impact perspective is how I can reach more people and position myself as a thought leader and an expert, which helps my agency, right? So I've been fortunate through the podcast to build relationships with people internationally who are, their own have their own thought leadership and expertise and, fame of various sorts in the world of marketing and digital marketing and content creation, which has led to me speaking, and being invited to speak at things like Social Media Marketing World, the world's largest social media conference, twice now. And, those sorts of relationships that you build through podcasting, you sometimes don't know at the time what they're going to lead to over the long run. So that's what keeps me going in that space. The book now, obviously I've, just written and released a book.
Yeah. Tell me more about the book.
So the book, if you're watching on video, is Engage, the definitive guide to video strategy for business. So it is kind of everything that we've talked about and everything that is the foundation of what I share with my audience and with my students in my programs, but also the processes and thought processes and structure of the frameworks that we go through with our clients to help them achieve success with video strategy and video marketing. The book's kind of written for two audiences. It's written for the business owner themselves who want to pick up the book and self-educate and do better with the video that they're doing, or, give better briefs or better guidance to their creatives who are working with them on their videos. Or ideally, it's also written for people like yourself, Caleb, and like myself, who are out there creating video content for businesses, but they maybe are unsure about whether or not they are guiding and leading their client towards the right videos for the right purpose in the right way. So the book has the frameworks in there. It's got, it's all broken down in, really easy ways for people to understand and execute themselves. And then part 3 of the book has got, some tools in there that you can use, like the 7-minute video strategy plan, which is a simple kind of structure that you can go through in kind of, more or less 7 minutes, right, to create a video strategy for a business. There's a 1-page video strategy canvas in there, which is basically like a template that you can use to just ensure that your videos are strategic and that you've thought through everything that you need to set them up for success. And a really cool little framework called the Simple 7, which is basically 7 core types of videos that any business can do with no budget or little or no budget. So, that's the kind of thing where if you're trying to do things yourself, you can just pick that up and start executing straight away. So, I guess going back to your first question, or the question that led us onto this path here, Caleb, what's the measure of success for me? It's seeing the results that the ideas that I put out into the world get for other people, because I strongly believe in the idea of leading with value, and then that value comes back in whatever that looks like, whether it be new business, whether it be, achieving financial goals, or whether it be just leaving some sort of a legacy. Then, I think I've achieved something, right?
Yeah, I love that. I've had the privilege of stepping into a little bit of a coaching role, and as well, and I can identify with that. It is so fulfilling when you see the people that you are leading and contributing to get success from what you've taught them. It's like, I'll ask about your journey into business as well, because I know you were teaching, right, before going to business for yourself. And so there's probably, would you say there's a bit of the awareness, you had awareness of the motivation and the fulfillment that comes from teaching that really led you a little bit into wanting to achieve that and feel that with your work in video.
Yeah, oh, definitely. And people have asked me multiple times, like, why did you leave teaching behind? And, there's a longer story there, but basically I still feel that I'm still a teacher. I started in business to be creative ultimately. And I don't know, to do that thing of be your own boss, right? To have control of your own destiny and, not be at the whim of someone telling you what to do, like most of us who start business, right? But, very quickly I realized that it's not all sunshine and rainbows. But what I did realize is one of the key ways that I can add value to my audience, to my customers, to my clients, is to educate, right? To help them better understand how to use video, why using video is the right choice for them. And so my sales approach, as I got better at sales over the years, is about leading with value and about educating rather than pitching and convincing, right? So I'm still an educator, and obviously, maybe that background of teaching, did set me up for, or I had a proclivity to sharing ideas. And maybe, I don't know, maybe you can answer this question, Caleb, but maybe I do have a little bit of a superpower of being able to take complex ideas and make them easy for people to understand. I've heard that other people say that about me before, and maybe that's a teacher thing. But yeah, so I'm always teaching, and I probably always will be in some form.
Yeah, that's so true. I probably picked up on that from you throughout listening and learning from you. That's a massive key, and it's a huge sales advantage if you lead purely with value rather than your motivation trying to sell them something, your motivation trying to be helpful and valuable first is so much more powerful, right? And I reckon I would have really had an awareness introduced to me of that principle from how you operate and how I learnt your kind of sales process. It is about educating and giving first. One of the great things that is so releasing as a video producer is the encouragement around what a business can do themselves, and actually presenting to them that I'm not here to take all of your money and sell you a pipe dream. I'm here, and I often say my goal in any interaction that I have with a business, a client, or a potential client is to be the most helpful person they interact with in any given day. And if I can achieve that, then I've won. And part of that is quite often is educating, whether that's educating them that they don't need a video right now. They need to get a high-performing website that can handle video, or they don't need to talk to me about what they want to achieve. They need like bulk content, or like their sales teams need to inject video through Loom or something else, and they could do that all by themselves. That is an incredibly powerful place to be. Yeah.
Absolutely. And, I think by leading with value in that way, then you're actually, positioning yourself differently. And this is circling back to, the benefit of a video strategist in your corner as a business, or, if you are that video strategist, this is the benefit of positioning yourself as a video strategist, because a video strategist is there for the success of that business, not to, just push video on someone from a tactics first or video first perspective. So, and that's, absolutely music to my ears that you're talking about there. And, that's, dare I say it, some of the impact that I was just sharing, that impact that's had on your business. I can't measure that. I can't count that, right? So, yeah, I think anyone can do that though. They can lead with value. They can educate. They can change someone's mindset or view on something in whatever their expertise is. And, the immeasurable impact going down the line can't be ignored or discounted. So, yeah, I think that's true for anyone, whatever they're selling or whatever they're communicating with people about.
Yeah, that's 100% spot on, man. I love that. I love talking to you, Ben, because I hear so much of the language that I use now has come from your vernacular, and the way you approach things. But it's like we share a brain in terms of motivation to help. And I don't get very often to speak to people in everyday business that just totally get it like I do, and you're half the reason that I do get what I do. So thanks, mate. This is really fun. I want to talk a little bit about your production company and the agency. 2024, I'm just going to say it, and nearly every business listening to this will understand and relate, I'm sure. 2024 was one of the hardest years to do business that I think I've nearly ever experienced. I'll start again. What did you have in place, or how did you approach that year in a way that set you up to succeed from a business perspective, or weather the storm, depending on glass half empty or half full perspective? And how did the agency go? How did you engage video marketing go throughout 2024?
Yeah, so just to clear the first one off the table there, engage video marketing didn't do much at all, because I was basically bummed down writing this book most of 2024 and trying to get that off the ground. So a lot of what I would typically be doing in that side of the business, to be honest, kind of suffered. You know, I had some periods there where my podcast, there wasn't episodes being published. And so full disclosure, that was tricky, right? Because my attention was taken somewhere else. But if anyone's written a book or done that who's listening, it's a big undertaking, bigger than you think, right? It probably took me at least a year longer than I thought it would.
Yeah, wow.
So yeah, full disclosure, that probably didn't go well overall. But you know, if I come back to the start of 2024 in our agency, we were coming off, you know, one of the best quarters at the end of 2023 in my agency into what was a really shocking November, December, and January, and I was, to be honest, being like, oh, where is all the work? Where is all the stuff that's normally happening? So, you know, I think similar stories, right? But we ended up closing the financial year and then subsequently the calendar year of 2024 at our best revenue ever throughout the year. So that's good. Did we hit the targets that we had set ourselves? No, but did we achieve the previous year's goals? Yes, we did. So that's good. You know, what led to that? It's hard to directly measure, but I think one of the key things was what we were talking about before around, you know, years previous of leading with value first, right? Because when you lead with value and you invest, I guess invest in digging your well before you are thirsty, right? Is using that analogy. Then it becomes easier to lean a little bit harder on some of those relationships to, you know, kind of weather you through a storm, so to speak. So, you know, I did have to transition back to a lot more kind of, I guess, targeted kind of sales, as far as like setting hard time in my calendar to, you know, I'm going to go out and, you know, track down some sales, right? Because the next month is looking a bit slim. But I would typically get the most success of doing that from our past customers, from those relationships that we already have. You know, anyone in business probably knows it's way easier to sell to people who've already bought from you before than someone brand new to you. So, you know, the percentage of new prospects, new clients that we had in 2024 was, I don't have the data in front of me, but I'd say it was lower than maybe any other year. But we had a good amount of work consistently from some of those, you know, legendary clients we've had for years. But it was about approaching them with a value first approach and like saying, you know, taking the time with them, hearing where they're at, what they're struggling with their business right now, and finding out, well, how can we best support you to grow your business this year with the right videos? And, you know, not always, but most of the time that kind of converted through to people saying, yeah, cool, let's do that. Let's make those videos. So yeah, like that's not, I guess, the 100% answer to everything that led to where we ended up last year, but I think it was a key driver. The rest of it, you know, there's a bit of luck and there's a bit of other stuff going on, but yeah, that's business for you, right?
No, that's great. Love that. Yeah. Continuing with the value first, subject, let's bring a little bit of value to any business owners or high-level department leaders that are listening to this. What could they be doing? Let's lay some video principles out for them, and what type of highest value videos that they could be doing first. Say a business is looking at slicing out a bigger chunk of their market from a brand awareness perspective, and they'd like to introduce some systems to help their customers take action more effectively. Using those as some marketing goals or business goals, what would a conversation look like if a client came to you with those goals?
Yeah, good question. And for us, whether it be a formal kind of video strategy session that we're running, or a video strategy workshop, or if it just be an initial sales conversation of someone calling us and making an inquiry, my conversation always turns back to questions first. So before I talk about any kind of solution, I'm always trying to establish what is the problem, what is the real problem that the business is facing. I often refer to the idea that prescription, like in the medical world, right, prescription without diagnosis is malpractice, right? So if you go to a doctor and he just looks at you, you walk in the door and he says, "Oh, you need this drug," right, and sends you on your way, then that's malpractice in medical, right? So if you go to your video provider or your video producer and they just say, "Oh, so good to talk to you. We've got this type of video that we've got on special this month," or, "We're doing a lot of these videos for our clients and we love making them. Can we make one for you?" Then probably turn away and go, "No,
malpractice."
You're right, malpractice, because they're just, diagnosing the type of video that's right for that business without really understanding the problems that business is facing. So I know the way that you approach it, Caleb, with your clients, and how we approach it as well, is it's about asking the right questions first. So your question that you asked me there was, what types of videos should a business be, thinking to, high value ideas for video? I think that there's no simple way to answer that, right? The simple way to answer that, however, is to first identify where are the gaps currently in your marketing, your conversion, your sales process, right? So whether you identify that yourself, so you have that internal conversation, or you speak to a video strategist like Caleb to help you kind of unpack that, you need to think to yourself, well, where in our customer journey, from like people first becoming aware of us through to, potentially buying or even post-purchase, and, people have been our customers before, where is the most opportunity right now to move the needle for our business? And the answer to that's going to be individual to the business who's thinking about that, right? But for some businesses who they reflect on that and they think, look, the key thing is not enough people know about us. There's just not enough awareness in our marketplace that we even exist. When people are aware that we exist and they are in contact with us, we're pretty good at converting. We can sell, we can get them across the line, we can, make that transaction happen. If that's where you're at, then you probably need to focus on video content that's more around your brand and your positioning in the marketplace and getting in front of people and connecting through video in that way. So it's like brand stories or case studies or client stories or those sorts of top of funnel type videos, right? Conversely, on the other side, it could be that you're thinking, look, a lot of people know we exist. We've got a good reputation. Like, people see our cars driving around everywhere, or, people have heard of us. If you stop someone on the street and said, "Have you heard of XYZ company?" Most people in this town would say, "Yeah, I've heard of them." But then the challenge is, are you selling enough to those people? Then the challenge now is conversion, right? So then the video content is going to look very different. It needs to be more sales focused content. How can you accelerate sales through videos on your landing page, or videos in your kind of inquiry follow-up process, or cold outreach type videos that remind people that, I don't know, their pest control service is due, right? I'm just making that up, right? But those kinds of videos, they're not super creative and sexy, but they're going to move the needle in sales, right? So, yeah, I mean, we can talk about videos across the whole customer journey, but, people can also pick up the book if they want to figure that out for themselves, or call Caleb and Hebron Films and, they'll do it for you. But, ultimately, the key videos that are going to make a difference for your business are the ones that are aligned to the current gaps that you have in that customer journey. And that's where you should start.
Yeah, that's such a good answer. What do you say when a client comes to you and it's actually a fun one I get, but you will get it lots, they come to you and they say, look, we haven't done a lot of video, but we want more people to be aware of us. So we want to tell our company history, and but we also want that video to be a bit of a recruitment tool for new employees, and we wouldn't mind if it, just like a third priority could be that it as used as a bit of an ad for conversion. Have you ever had that conversation with a client where they want to put every single egg they have in the basket of one video?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and most of the time they don't say it exactly like you did, but as you hear more from them, that's what we see, right? That's what we get. Often what will happen, for example, is a client will come to us with a preconceived idea of the video that they want. And sometimes the worst scenario is, maybe not the worst, but a worse scenario is when they come with a script that they've created. They've found some video template online and they've written a script, right? So I'm sure you've had that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, many others
Yeah.
have considered that before. The challenge there is obviously the fact that they're not thinking strategically about that content. Okay, what they're thinking about is, seeing video as a one-size-fits-all kind of an approach. And they're seeing video maybe in a bit of an old school mentality of a video that tries to do everything for everyone. But we know that that's not the case. Right? We know from a consumer perspective and from a human perspective that that's not how people make decisions to buy, right? Think of it this way. If you were to take the video component out of it and just put it into a face-to-face bricks and mortar store kind of a sales conversation, it's kind of like walking into a electronics retailer on the main street of a town, and you're going in there as a customer, and you're kind of looking for let's say a fridge, right? You're looking to buy a new fridge because your old one's, doesn't look good in your kitchen, or it's breaking down or something. So as a consumer, you're going to go in there, not necessarily wanting to be sold to, but you do want to buy. That's why you're there in the first place, right? But to get you in the door in the first place, it requires some sort of level of trust. So you're probably going to walk past the dodgy electrical store on the street with, the sign that's falling down and the newspaper stuck on all the glass windows at the front. And it looks like it's been closed for years, but the sign says open, but there's a smell of rotting trash coming out the door, right? You're not going to go in there to buy your fridge, right? If you're with me on this analogy.
I'm loving
it.
So
you're going to walk straight past that one because there's no brand kind of connection there, right? But then you go up to the bigger brand store because there's brand awareness there. You're kind of like, okay, I trust this brand. I like them. I've kind of connected emotionally with their brand here. So you're going to actually get into the store, right? And then when you're in the store, you're going to look around at the different fridges on display there. And a good store would have some good information. So they would have some value-based things that, they would have some signage on the fridges. So different features, like what it's good for, pros and cons and that sort of thing, Energy Star ratings. So you're starting to feel educated, right? And then the salesman walks up to you, right? And the salesman, if it's in a good store, is going to, build a bit of rapport with you first and ask you about why are you here for a fridge today? What are you looking for? Tell us about your family. What are your needs? They're, getting the diagnosis before they prescribe the right fridge for you. And then a good salesperson will then answer any kind of rational objections you have to buying the fridge and say, this is the best one for you. It's, this is how it works. Open and close the doors. And then you'll buy the fridge. You'll have a really good experience, right? You'll be like, fantastic. That was great. But the other way to approach it is let's say you get in the door, but then the salesman like stops you right in front of the door. You've just walked in and he goes, "Hi, sir. Nice to meet you. Here is a fridge for you. Like, you're here for a fridge. This is it. This is the one that's on special today. Buy this fridge, discount. Oh, okay. You don't want it? Well, I'll knock 50% off for you. Here it is." Right? You're not going to enjoy that process. You're probably not going to buy the fridge.
No.
I know that was a bit of a long story, but hopefully it paints the picture of how businesses approach their video marketing when they're not thinking strategically. You need to respect and understand that journey that they go on to buy and allow your video content to show up for them in different ways. So don't try and create one video that does everything, because it's kind of like, I don't know, trying to be that cold call salesperson standing at the front door of the electrical store, and nobody wants that.
No, don't be that salesperson. I have just really enjoyed this conversation so far. I just keep thinking about how much fun this is. I want to one thing that we always do towards the end of an episode is ask the guest over your 16 years in business, in video agency and thought leadership. What are some of the challenges that you've faced or the mistakes that you've made and how have you learned from them, and how have they been helpful, or how have you overcome them?
Oh, mate, where to start? So many challenges, so many mistakes. Look, I would say, on the spot, to kind of the key one that comes to mind that's a constant challenge for me has always been that balance between productivity and time as a business owner. And, whether it be that kind of shiny object syndrome or that squirrel syndrome, whatever you kind of think of, is, I think generally as an ideas type of person and someone who, likes to dive deep into things as well, as we've talked about before, often what that can result in and has resulted in for me in my business journey is a lack of focus and direction at times. And I think what I've learned from that, and I'm still learning from that, is developing strategies and skills to build guardrails around my time. And that comes down to some of these hard things, hard guardrails, like hard stops on things, like time blocking in my calendar, and so that I know that this is what I'm supposed to be working on at this time. It also comes down to physical kind of space control as well. Like, I don't I don't have a home office. I don't work at home. I can do things from my phone if I need to, or a laptop if I need to, but I've got these hard guardrails to balance life and family that, if I knock off and I leave the office, I'm at home. I'm not working on stuff. I can always come back to the office if I need to. So putting these hard guardrails around my time through time blocking and calendar use, and having that kind of life blocking around work-life balance as well has probably been one of the key things I've worked on over the years and continue to work on probably.
Yeah, I suffer from and have suffered from that in the past, and it's a continual learning journey, the shiny object syndrome of because as you know, you get further in business and more opportunities come your way. Like they're almost never ending at one point. They just compound and they're like, man, I could do this. I've got this idea. I could do that. This person's asking me to do this different thing. How many different things can I do? Because starting things, for some people, starting things is incredibly fun. And it's just,
for me,
we love it. Starting a new thing. Yeah. So yeah, that's a very relatable one, I would say, for entrepreneurs especially.
Yeah.
Mate, what would you, rounding this episode out, what would you give as your top couple of tips that you've experienced in business that like you operate, mantras that you operate business by, or key learnings that you've developed and gained over the years that you could share and say, look, this thing has really helped me be where I am today?
Yeah, we touched on one of the key ones before around just leading with value. And that's something that, underpins everything that I do from a business perspective, sales, relationships. I'm always seeking to, what value can I add to this person, this conversation? I think that's something I want people to take away from this conversation where they can. I think the other thing is in business, remembering that people buy from people, and people can't buy from you, or it's very much harder for people to buy from you when they don't know you, when they don't see you. And I think as a business owner, and particularly for creative businesses, it's particularly hard, or for introverts, or, which I am as well. The idea of putting yourself out there in front of your business is very difficult. It's easy to hide behind a logo, a brand name, or your team. But the more people can see you and connect with you and know who you are, the more that's going to come back to help you grow your business. So I encourage a business owner to be more front and center, more visible in their business, from a public facing perspective, whether that just be networking face to face, massive in growing a business, or whether that be creating content and getting video content out there with you in it. Massive, because people buy from people. So yeah, I don't know if that's what you're after there, but
that's great.
That 2?
Perfect.
I don't know what you're looking for.
Yeah. No, I need 10. No, 2's great. And they were really, really valuable and amazing. Mate, let's just call out a few potential audience members here and types. If someone is in your part of the world, what kind of businesses do you love to work with at Innovate Media, and how do they get in touch with you? We'll start there.
Yeah, thanks for asking, Caleb. We work across a range of industries, like many video strategists do, because the strategies we apply can apply to a range of industries. But our sweet spot is for professional services, medical and education. That's kind of where we focus. Those sorts of businesses we'd love to hear from. If you're in the southeast Queensland or the Queensland region, or you don't want to fly Caleb and his crew up from Victoria, wherever you guys are. That's what we love to do. You can go to innovatemedia.com.au to learn more about our agency as well. And the other side of that is anyone listening who's interested in doing better with video. You can obviously call Caleb and have a chat, but if you want to educate yourself, then engage the book. That's where to go. Go and pick it up. It's on Kindle, it's on Amazon, but if you're in Australia, I'll sign a copy and send it out to you if you go to engagevideomarketing.com/book.
That's awesome. I love that. Is there plans for an audio version of the book?
There is. I've started recording it. That's
nice.
Like birthing another baby. It's been quite a journey so far. I don't know. I'm sorry to all the women out there who have actually birthed babies, but it's quite a journey. Look, my plan is probably by towards the end of March. I hope to have that ready. Don't hold me to that, but there will be an audible version coming soon, which I'm reading myself. So that's why it's painful.
But I can guarantee you it will be a better experience for the listener. I'm a massive Audible fan, and when the author has read the book, that is by far the best. So well done, mate. I've helped another author record an audio book, not a service we provide, just asterisk there. But it is quite an intense process. So well done for pursuing that and continuing it amongst all the other things you do. Ben, thank you so much for jumping on the show. It's been an absolute honor and a privilege to hear from one of my early mentors and someone I've looked up to for a long time in the video production space. And thanks for all that you've contributed over my journey and what you've contributed to our audience over this episode.
Thanks, Caleb. Look, I appreciate everything you do, and I appreciate you having me on the show. This has been an awesome conversation. We should do it again sometime.
Yeah, it sounds good. See you, mate.
See ya.
Well, that's it for this episode. If you really enjoyed listening, why don't you drop a comment in the comments below? Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel so that you get updates on when all of the next ones come out. That really helps grow this little community of people that are diving into regional business and celebrating and learning more from it. So really appreciate your support, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.